Okay, you ready? Don't look at the video. Shade your eyes, your eyes burn. I was born in Leicester on the longest day of the year in 1978. I loved everything about Leicester. I loved its people, I loved its buildings, I loved its culture. But at 37, I decided I needed something different. So I moved with my wife and 2 children to the coast, just outside of Bristol. In the summer of 2020, I decided I was going to record an album, but this one would be different. This one was going to be all about relationships. My relationship with my wife, with my children, and it would be the most emotionally honest thing that I'd recorded so far. And to compound the intensity, I thought what I'd do is record it on a free 30-day trial of a program that I'd never used before and just see what happened. And this is the story of that album.
Is this for the documentary or?
Yeah, so I'm thinking,
Okay.
I don't know, I'm still trying to figure I think I'm going to record everything. So like just get the kids to record, with their phones and stuff.
Yeah.
Because even if it's completely rubbish, I just think it might fill up 5 minutes, or do you know what I mean?
100% right. Yeah. Whatever kind of expositional component you can find. And if the cameras are always on, you're going to find something.
Yeah. Well, that's my thought. That was my thought. And I don't want to, I don't know, I don't want to plan it too much either. I want it, because otherwise it'll just be terrible.
Yeah.
I think.
So what's going on? What do you got planned?
Like
What's going on?
I started it today. Lips like broken trees.
This is changing the way you work. It's changing the way you have to be because you want to get this done in 30 days, right?
Yeah.
So this is gonna be art that's totally different than you usually put out, and that's gonna be interesting.
I've suffered from chronic lung disease, a severe form of asthma, for most of my life. And it's got worse and worse as I've gotten older, leading to me being hospitalised a number of times, and ultimately causing me and my family to have to isolate through the pandemic. Because if I do get COVID, I could get seriously ill or die. So I drew inspiration from being sick on my previous 2 albums, But I wanted this one to revolve around my relationships with my wife and daughters while we were in this little bubble of isolation together. It made me write in a much more emotional way than I had done, and I really wanted to ask some advice from friends to get some perspective on what it was that I was doing.
Hey, you're recording there?
Yeah. And that way I can have a copy of the whatever you play.
All right. No, that's a good idea.
So don't say fuck or bugger.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Extra pressure now because the camera's rolling.
Red light fever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good tune. I remember you playing that at the gig in Bristol.
And the rain falls on hard, that's B, hard ground. And then that's back to G again.
The piano chords might sound good with like a Rhodes organ type of effect on it.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like some of our old recordings got that old organ from Stay Free on them, haven't they?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
But some sort of very low down in the mix kind of bassy organ.
Okay.
Might sound good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like it just maybe you could mic up the strings so you get the click off the strings or something like that as well.
Yeah.
So this is called Come Home. Your lips like broken trees inside your dulcet mouth, sleeping with your hands on fire and the stove still on. I haven't written these bits down actually, but I think it's something along the lines of walking hand in hand, smiling, something like that. And then the chorus is, she's the bones in your hand, she's the glass in the sea, come home. Pushing hair from your eyes, what are you thinking? Your lips like broken trees, with your hands on fire.
Like that, it reminds me of like the Romantic poets do a lot of that. Like I don't really know much about them, but like Wordsworth and John Donne and a lot of those kind of people, it's, you know, they're like intense descriptions of a flower or a bush, but they're not really about a flower or a bush, but they are, but they're also about other things within it, and it's through a really intense penetration of an object and the observation of an object, like you do when you do a drawing. You do like a drawing of a flower for 5 hours. It's kind of bonkers that you'd spend that time doing that. It's observing something in all its detail. But I think if you observe something for long enough, it becomes something other than what it is intrinsically.
I'm videoing. I will.
I think because the song is meant to be thematically, it's meant to be about like fathers and daughters, really.
And I suppose
Yeah.
more specifically, me as a father and my daughters. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah, observing them in your presence and then missing them when they're not there and wanting them to come back and wishing them well and thinking of them in their absence.
and it is, and it's about me sort of projecting into the future as well and thinking, well, how am I going to feel when they leave?
Right.
Like, how am I going to feel when they go off to university, or when do you know what I mean? When they move out,
yeah.
or it's sort of, I don't know. But then I suppose it is kind of like, I don't know, like focusing on the physical a lot, but then it's kind of, because I don't know, we're all sort of just physical things, aren't we? At the end of the day, there's no huge difference between a person and like a rock. Do you know what I mean? We're all basically made of the same stuff, but then at the same time, it's the emotion that's I would attach to another person that I wouldn't attach to a rock. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I don't agree. That's like an incredibly scientific way of viewing life as stuff and like atoms and matter, and that's not something I really think about a lot of, really. You do, clearly. It's coming out in your writing.
Well, that is, I suppose, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's sort of the way you see the world almost subconsciously totally dictates how you write then, I suppose.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And like what we were saying before, if you spend enough time looking at something or thinking about something, there's no way part of you can't be then joined, and your experience of it becomes self-reflective in a certain way, because everyone can be looking at, you can have like one object in a painting studio and there can be 10 people around it painting the same object, but everyone's gonna put something of themselves into the representation of what that object is.
Yeah.
And it's gonna, from either consciously or unconsciously, from their personality or their personal experience and their art history and their technique and all the things that they bring to it that they can't not bring to it. So that's something that you can't do and I can't do.
Yeah.
What I would say is, so when you were talking about like missing them or projecting into the future about them going to university, why is terminology not like that in the lyrics? Like something as immediate as I'm worried about or I'm thinking about this thing, but I'm going to displace it several times before I put it lyrically into a song. It's just an interesting process, and part of the lyrics I like in songs, or not that I like, but that seem to resonate a lot with me in writing as well, are when things are quite immediate and don't have those layers to them.
I think my thing is, I don't know, mine is almost, I kind of think, well, I'm not really a good enough writer to be able to, do you know what I mean? I sort of think,
go on.
Well, I kind of think like I'm not, I feel like whenever I've tried to make something or write something that kind of would make literal sense to someone, it just sounds rubbish. Do you know what I mean? It just sounds like I'm not clever enough, I'm not good enough to kind of be able to do that in a good way.
What you're saying is interesting, because it feels like it's almost like you're you either putting the cart before the horse or you're getting things kind of ass backwards. So a version of what I just heard you say was, I'm not a good enough lyrically talented writer to write what I think, so therefore I'm going to impose lyrical standards, artistic lyrical standards onto them, so they're then artistic. So what you're suggesting is, I have a thought and it's a pure thought, but it's not art. So then I need to make it arty and therefore good by obscuring it in a certain way.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And actually, that's even harder. Is making the obscurement of something and the abstraction of something art, because then you're toggling all kinds of things. You're toggling imagery and things that harken back if you still want the pure imagery. It just seems like it doesn't seem like you want to just make stuff up and it be abstract and it about rhyming or it about like the sound of the words. Like, you want the words to have meaning. So for me, it'd be interesting just to hear the hello. Hello. How's it going? Good. Getting a bedtime cup of tea.
Elsa made herself a cup of tea today, you know.
Yeah.
God. She's in trouble now.
Uh-oh. And some of the writers I like are like songwriters. Like, one of my favourite songwriters is Lucinda Williams.
Yeah, lovely singer.
It's amazing. And she has such directness in her lyrics.
Yeah.
And simplicity. It's so it can be so pared down, even sometimes to a single image, like one image, a stanza, and it's clean and it's powerful, you know. But then, you know, I love Stephen Malkmus and his ridiculous fancy into absurdism. So
yeah,
you know, like there's everything's like to play for. It's not one's better than the other. But it's just interesting what you said about these stages you're going through.
It's weird. I just find it it's easier for me to be abstract, if that does that make sense. But then maybe, but I've actually
maybe that's why you should push against it.
Yeah, because it's about pushing. I think that's been a theme of doing this whole project, is pushing myself, because I don't push myself at all. I'm like, you know, doing when I did the last album, like I'll do a vocal take, yeah, that's all right, I'll keep that. Do you know what I mean? I don't sort of push for like, no, it needs to be better. And even in the writing, this time I'm like, no, that needs to be better. That needs, you know, that chorus is not good enough, or that line is not good enough, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I think what might be interesting is doing sort of, because I've just changed one of the lines here, so sleep with your hands on fire, but she's leaving home. So kind of, that is like cuts to the heart of it, really.
Yeah.
I mean? So it's still retaining some level of comfort in that I've still got, you know, maybe some abstract kind of surrealistic images.
And what was that last line?
Oh, it was the stove still on, which was Harriet came up with that line, actually. which I don't know. I didn't really. It is a nice light. I don't know. I kind of feel a bit guilty for getting
What's
rid
the title? What's the title of this?
Come Home.
No, The Stove Is Still On is a better title.
Do you think so? Okay.
Yeah.